What's up? That? Well, my friends make some
Okay, thank you.
You hear it? I must not show. I thought that I could. All right, we will call the meeting to order, the Wednesday, January 17th, 2024 regular council meeting here. We will start as we did last week with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag
of America and to the republic
for which it
nation
is under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Amen.
We have the civility pledge. So during the meeting, these pledges promote civility by listening, being respectful of others, and acknowledging that we are all striving to support and improve our community. What's that? Roll call. Duncan.
Here.
Here. Gabriel. Here. Kramer. Here. Whitehead.
She will not get it.
Oh, I saw that.
To perfect and approve the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? I'll move to perfect and approve the agenda. Duncan.
Yes.
Yes. Gabriel. Yes. Kramer. Yes. Anything on the agenda or anything that is not on the agenda? And it looks like we have Janet.
Oh, you want me first?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is Janet Solon, and I was at the last council meeting where I listened with great interest to what the Greater Iowa City Incorporated had to say about their organization and how it could help with affordable housing, streets, employment, employee hiring, creating new jobs, help new businesses start up, as well as finding grants for struggling businesses. It sounded like it could do everything except put the cat out at night. The representatives named other communities they were assisting. However, I don't recall hearing any examples or specific details about their accomplishments. It was also unclear to me what was meant by supporting and connecting businesses. I wondered about how they would go about assisting with affordable housing, streets and sidewalks, hiring, contractors, job placement centers, or federal housing authority. Are they paid a separate fee for their services by the parties they deal with? If so, why do they wish to contract with Solon for $3,000? I asked a member of the Swisher City Council if Swisher had been contacted by the same group. The reply was that there are a number of similar groups based in Iowa City that do the same thing for a fee. As for affordable housing, it was proposed that Swisher allow accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, to be constructed. These units would be 400 square feet in size and be complete with plumbing, electricity, and gas. A 400 square foot ADU is basically a 20 by 20 foot box, about the size of a large travel trailer, a large fifth wheel, or a medium-sized Class A motor home, and could be placed on either private or public land. I personally am against such dwellings being placed in my neighborhood. My curiosity being cued, I checked with the Better Business Bureau website, but couldn't find Greater Iowa City Incorporated listed. I then contacted a person I know who happens to work for the Small Business Administration. I asked how and where I could research the group further. First question he asked was if I had checked with the Better Business Bureau. I said yes, but found nothing listed. The next question was, is Greater Iowa City a for-profit organization? I said there was nothing listed about it being a not-for-profit organization. And since it was incorporated, I concluded that it was for-profit. A third question was, did they merge with any other organization? I said yes. They merged with a Chamber of Commerce in a neighboring city. The response was that he did not like any chambers of commerce because all they did was arrange ribbon cutting ceremonies. This was one of the services Greater Iowa City Incorporated provided when they were here. They said they provided when they were here on January 3rd. I told them that Greater Iowa City wanted $3,000 for these services. When asked if Greater Iowa City gave refunds, I replied that I had no idea. I was told that the Small Business Administration will provide refunds if they cannot complete the requested services. The advice I received was that before any decisions were made, to check with all the communities that had dealings with Greater Iowa City Incorporated, not just the ones mentioned at the council meeting, to discover how satisfied they were with the service provided. Since I do not officially represent Solon, I felt that I could not do that. Next, consider priorities and obligations the city currently has. $3,000 would be an added expense to an already tight budget. The $3,000 could be put toward city services such as the library, clearing the streets of snow and ice, or partial payment for the John Deere Gator discussed on January 3rd. My tax money is already going to federal and state agencies that help individuals with affordable housing. Consequently, I object to the spending of my tax money for redundant services. Since the Small Business Administration has been in existence for many, many years and provides assistance and advice to small and/or startup businesses, my feeling is that entrepreneurs should consult it first. As for streets and sidewalks, Solon seems to be doing pretty good so far, and therefore doesn't need a third party telling the engineers what to do or who to talk to. Thank you.
Yes, I wasn't on the report tonight. I just wanted to remind everyone that we will be having our Radon Awareness Program on next Tuesday, the 23rd at 6:30. We recently had to go through a process at the library. Our radon levels were high. And so we had to go through a remediation process. John Farlinger and Roy Weir of Adios Radon worked with us to get those levels down to acceptable safety levels. And I think it's very important to people to be aware. This is very prevalent in the Midwest. The first 26 people who attend the program will get a free at-home test to be able to check their radon levels. So both John and Roy will be there presenting and explaining the impacts of radon to your health, when to contact a professional, how to conduct testing, and what the process is if you happen to have high levels. So I just want to invite everyone. It's at the library community meeting room, Tuesday, the 23rd at 6:30.
Thanks. Next, the consent of the agenda. So we looking at approval of the minutes from the regular meeting January 3rd, correct? January 3rd. So
It would be January 3rd.
January
yes.
3rd, 2024. Approval list of bills, treasurer's report and transfers, building permits, which there are a couple. Beer and liquor license approvals. We have Bluebird on there. The event. Kate, do you want to talk about the Big Grove event? Are you here for that?
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about it right now?
Yeah, or should I split that out separately?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and talk?
Yeah, I submitted the plan already, but basically we're just asking if it's okay to close down West Main Street just in front of Big Grove like we do for our anniversary party. It would be from the alley to the main street right here. So you would still be able to access the alley and the parking lot through the little side street. We're just hosting a big bike ride that will go from Big Grove, Cedar Rapids and Big Grove, Iowa City, meeting at Big Grove Solon on June 29th, which is a Saturday, and Trophy Dads would be playing in the street. So.
Hey, I wanted to let you know that in the past, Big Grove would apply for the event application for the actual event, and then the Bike Coalition would apply for an event application for the bikes to come through town.
Okay.
So I don't know who your contact is with the Iowa City Bike Coalition right now, but would you have them reach out to me?
Absolutely.
And that covers the ride coming through or the streets, and then you know the route and all that. And this covers the actual gathering at Big Grove.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'd be looking for a pen to write.
We also have the board, commission appointments. We have some new ones on there as well as the city council committees. What's that? So any questions or things before we the agenda?
Any concerns with the liquor license for Bluebird?
No concerns.
I'll move to, I'll move to consent the agenda.
I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Harlan.
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer.
Yes.
Next, public works, Scott.
Sent you guys all a written report. Didn't know if you guys had a chance to review it or not, but, pretty much last week and a half has been, snow. And, I applaud my crew. I feel, and I hear this all over, that, we do the best job at snow removal of the communities in our area, and they work hard and have a great work ethic. The John Deere Gator arrived today, and we're still waiting on the John Deere tractor and the attached snow equipment, which would be very handy right now. One of the things during the snow event that we realized was the need for a snow blower. We had several streets that had over 4 feet of snow. Our plows wouldn't get through them. And I made the decision, got asked around. There was a snow blower, a Caterpillar snow blower. There was also a John Deere one, but the Cat one was lower priced. And I just purchased the snow blower to help us through this event. So hope that didn't cause any ill feelings, but we had to get it done. It's been in use ever since, so.
Like you said, you couldn't have got through some of those snowbanks without it, right?
Oh, no. No, we'd still be there trying to dig ourselves out. And, you know, some of that stuff in those new developments, you know, you can say, well, those new developments are a hindrance. It's actually, they're gonna grow. And what it is just wide open spaces right now. We had the same thing with Prairie Acres. And Fox Ridge. Once the homes get built, it's not such a wide open space anymore, but. So I'll tell you what, you wanna see some drifts, you know, that's where they were at, was the old Mill Creek on the north part where there's no homes yet, and Trail Ridge, where we actually had one lane of traffic through there. So people could get in and out to their homes, but we sat up there for a day and a half, just doing nothing but blowing snow, trying to get that fully opened. You know, it was up over the hood of the truck. And quite a bit of repairs, as you can imagine, you know, over close to 25 inches of snow. One of the trucks is back in operation today. It had caught a curve with the wing and actually sheared it off from the mounts of the wing, sheared off in the frame of the truck, which rendered it unusable then. And luckily that happened on Sunday as we were doing some work. So Monday morning, we got it right up to Manchester right away and got it back this morning. So that was great. Thank Henderson for taking care of us in that regard. Also, the latest truck that we purchased over a year ago, the old University of Iowa truck, it started having emission problems during the snow event and rendered it inoperable. And after some diagnosis, the entire regeneration system for the emissions is just rock hard carbon inside of that, and you can't clean it. So we had to replace it, have to replace it. Unfortunately, there's only 2 units left because they no longer, the parts for that truck are discontinued because of its age, which we find that even with our other Freightliners, but there is aftermarket parts available, and that's what's coming our way. Unfortunately, it's a high cost, So hopefully in the next week, we should have that truck be fully staffed again with trucks, so. Still got some work to do. We got sidewalks, trails. We haven't even started on trails. And we'll continue to do some roadway widening and getting this hard pack off the streets. Today was actually the first day because of the warmer temps. It was actually the salt was able to work and do its job. And we're slowly peeling up that hard pack. So that's about it.
Out of curiosity, have you guys tallied the number of hours that?
We have, and I haven't done it yet this week, but by Monday morning, we had 331 hours from the Tuesday to Monday. About 50 tons of salt. And then we've probably used 30 tons of sand.
Which has made a huge difference.
Yeah. So we had to get the sand trucked here. You know, just everything took so much time because you can't prepare for an event like that.
It didn't stop, so.
It did not.
Non-stop.
And then the brutal winds behind it. So, all in all, I'm sure proud of the public works crew and felt they did an outstanding job.
It's awesome work. No, it's long days, but short sleeps.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, we also have some phantom alarm problems chasing us with the water system. And unfortunately, we just can't acknowledge the alarm and roll back to sleep. And they never happen during the daytime. It's always in the evening. And we were up the three of us were out the other night chasing down a water leak that never was there because it was saying that the tower was out of water and wells weren't kicking on. And so I'd like to commend Dave for staying up to date with that. We think we've got everything figured out and on the right track. So.
Thanks. City engineer report, Dave?
Yeah, good evening. A few things to go over on the wastewater plant. So yesterday we had a discussion with bond counsel on the planning and design loan and got things in order for that, in order to get the loan proceedings and all the necessary steps set in calendar. We're also starting to look at options for treatment processes. One of the things we're doing is we're looking at the size impact if we were to do an EQ basin. So we have two different options to send to the equipment vendors. And that'll give us a couple of different things that we can use as the basis for our anti-dig report. If we have EQ, that there's a cost to build that. Currently, our plant does not have it. So we would try to do it without similarly and an option to add it later, or we could do it now and downsize that plant and just see what the cost difference is. So we're working through that process. We'll reach out to the equipment vendors with both options. We'll get preliminary sizing from them with budget numbers. And we'll use all that in that anti-dig analysis so we can come up with a preferred option. So that's in motion. We're also starting to look at some different plants that we can visit with Scott and Dave and the crew so they can talk with the operators, get some background as far as things they like, don't like, operational challenges and that sort of thing to help with the decision. Once we get to that point, we have to make a selection of the process. Other things we're doing on that, there's a clean watersheds need survey that we filled out a while back. I followed up with Henry at Iowa State on that. He thinks EPA is working on finalizing the results of that survey. He said there probably isn't any direct funding associated with that, but it demonstrates a need to Congress when they start looking at grant opportunities and whatnot. So we're going to keep on that trail to see if anything comes out of it. The other one that we're looking at is an energy efficiency and conservation block grant. There are a couple of different funds associated with that. One is a community fund and the other is an innovation fund. The part of the plant that we're looking at for this is the sludge drying. It's a solar system that has a big greenhouse associated with it. So we're going to try to apply for that. They had a webinar this morning. There were 60 attendees. They said they usually look at about 6 to 8 projects that they would consider. pretty competitive, but I'm going to continue to work on trying to get that put together. Had some discussion with University of Iowa. Craig Just, a professor, had stopped out and talked to us earlier. And we're going to try to get him to give us some information, helpful hints and whatnot to put into that grant application and see if we can't get some funding. It does require a match from the city, but if we're looking to do that as part of the project regardless, and we can get some money for it, we'll make an effort at it. So that's what I have on the wastewater plant for now. If anybody has any questions, be happy to go over that.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Is V on?
She sent me an email just for the meeting. She's unable to look at this.
Okay. That brings us to the proclamation for the Human Trafficking Prevention and Awareness Month. Whereas human trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion to compel a person into commercial sex acts or labor services against their will. Exploration of a minor for commercial sex is human trafficking, regardless of whether any form of force, fraud, or coercion is used. And whereas one of the world's fastest growing crimes is the buying and selling of people, whose growth has been accelerated in recent years due to an increase in other social injustices such as abuse, domestic violence, racism, stigmatism, and more. Communities in rural Iowa are seeing a significant increase in the number of children victimized by labor trafficking, especially children coming to the United States from Central America. And whereas there is a large disparity between the number of persons victimized by this horrific crime and the number of persons prosecuted as offenders, with more than 661 victims receiving services in Iowa's direct service programs in 2022, and only 3 individuals being convicted in Iowa's federal courts for human trafficking and 4 in Iowa state appellate courts. And whereas even though awareness of this crime is growing, human trafficking continues to be missed and vastly unreported. And whereas every business, community or organization, faith community, family, and individual can make a difference by working to protect the vulnerable within their sphere of influence by addressing the problem of internet sex trafficking, choosing products that are not made by forced labor, and by becoming more aware of the problem and possible solutions. Whereas the city of it should be Solon, correct?
It should be
Okay,
Solon.
the city of Solon joins Chains Interrupted in their dedication to providing community outreach and education, legislative advocacy, training, promotion of services to survivors of human trafficking, and collaboration with law enforcement. And now, therefore, I, Dan O'Neill, Mayor of Solon, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the month of January as Human Trafficking Prevention and Awareness Month, and encourage all of our citizens to become more informed on this growing problem, be vigilant and report suspicious activity, to work towards solutions to end trafficking in all its forms in our community. For assistance with this, reach out to Change Interrupted at 319-364-0222. If you see something that doesn't look right, reach out to the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888.
Can we say something real quick?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so, well, I'm Marilyn Muley from here in Solon. I know a couple of you, and Tish Young. So we're with Chains Interrupted. And we just want to thank Solon for declaring January as Human Trafficking Prevention and Awareness Month. You know, your commitment to helping us raise awareness is a testament to this community. You know, it fosters a community dedicated to keep our youth as well as everyone else safe. Especially with, you know, help us with that prevention, because online is where most of the traffickers will groom our young people. So anything you can do to help us out there is appreciated. So we just want to thank you for your leadership and dedication, and do reach out to Chains Interrupted if there's other presentations or more info that any groups you belong to would like to know.
Well, I didn't tell Marilyn before this, but Scott's already made arrangements for your city to be trained January 30th, I think, depending on the snow removal and that
Awesome.
kind of thing. So you guys are ahead of the curve. I've been trying, I work for the city of Cedar Rapids full time, and I've been trying for 2 years to get everybody with wheels trained. So I appreciate
Yay.
tremendously you taking lead on that, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you. We would love a picture at some point when you're ready with at the end of the meeting.
Could be lengthy because it's budget.
Oh, boy, are you gonna let us break it up for a second?
Yeah.
Snap picture? I'm gonna go to Mount Vernon and do the same thing all over. Let's see here. I don't know how to use my phone while we're standing here. So we need to do the, yes.
You want all the council members up here then? Is that what you're doing?
And then we great. Sure. You want to get in there? I'll take yours too. Or we can.
You both have it.
Yeah, you guys should get in. I'll take pictures.
Thank you so much. Poor Cammy's, been listening to me for. Thanks for doing this. We really do appreciate it very much. Here. Yeah. I'm gonna brag you up big time. I'm so excited. I know. Got it. Thank you.
Thanks.
I really have been trying for 2 years, so thank you so much. This is awesome. I do. Thank you.
You guys gotta do it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next is the public hearing on proposed amendment to the Solon urban renewable areas.
So as we, oh, go ahead, open.
Is there a motion to go into public?
I'll move to go to public hearing.
Duncan,
Yes.
Harlan,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer. Oh, here, results.
So this is a resolution to approve the urban renewal plan amendment. So this is in regards to the new sewer plant. So we approached Dorsey and Whitney about the planning and design loan. Their recommendation was that we go ahead and include it in our urban renewal amendment. Because once we get something in our urban renewal area, then it's eligible for TIF. We don't know that we're going to use TIF towards this project, but what it does is it allows the property purchase and the planning and design loan to be, will ultimately all get rolled into a bigger loan. And they have 15 million in here, but we don't know what that number is gonna be. That's just a placeholder. We can come back and amend that number once we know more, but that was a placeholder number. And this just starts that process. So we can move through that process for the planning and design loan and know that if needed, we have the ability to use TIF funding to help repay that loan and the later construction loan. And so the process involves having a consultation meeting with the people and the county that was offered to both on January 3rd. Because the property where the new sewer plant is going to go is already in the TIF area, so to speak. It does not need to go to planning and zoning. Otherwise, that's an additional step. But the area is already in there, so thank you to the previous council who had the forethought to go ahead and include that property in the TIF area. What this does is this just includes it in the plan. It's a two-step process. It's already in the area. Now it includes it in our plan. So that's the public hearing, and then later on the agenda, you'll see a resolution actually approving that plan amendment.
Any questions or comments on any of that information?
I move to approve resolution 20.
And then we'll close the hearing.
First, the hearing.
Gonna move to close.
I'll move to. I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Harlan.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Kramer. All right. To old business, so ordinance 481, ordinance amending various chapters of the Solon Code of Ordinance in anticipation of application.
This is the second reading. Yeah, I don't know if you want to rehash it all again. I'm happy to.
I'll move through ordinance 481. I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farland.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Kramer. Yes. Moves us down to new business, This is resolution 2402, resolution to approve the urban renewal plan amendment for the for the Solon urban renewal area. So this is what we just came out of public hearing for. Any discussion or questions?
I will move to approve the resolution number 24.
I'll second it.
All right. Duncan,
Yes.
Farland.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Kramer. Yes. That's next, random of understanding and Johnson Sheriff's Office Solon substation.
So, this is a memorandum of understanding that just creates a framework of the agreement that the city's gonna have with Johnson County Sheriff's, Office. So I worked with Scott, kind of listed, what did we understand the council wanted to be the city's responsibility? And then what were our expectations of the sheriff's office responsibility? So we put those in that list. Kevin just put it into an agreement. Brad did reach out. He was hoping to be here tonight. He is having the county attorney's office look at it. So pending any revisions that they have, the only other comment, he likes it to be called sheriff's office, not sheriff's department. So
Okay.
we'll make.
I'll know that for change
Um,
later.
So, those are basically the items that, Scott and I had come up with, kind of as we're getting ready to transition the building over to them. And so we just Kevin felt it would be a good idea that there is a written agreement and an understanding.
And within that, if they were to ever move out of there, that would revert back that.
Yep, so it talks about it, they have to take everything out that they put in and come back to us.
Questions or discussions?
The other comment I had in that is if it ever got damaged by a storm or fire, the agreement would just terminate, we wouldn't have to build something back for them.
Emotion. I'll move to approve memorandum of understanding with Johnson County Sheriff.
I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farland.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Kramer. Yes. We have resolution 2403, the Solon substation dedication. This is the dedication of the Johnson County Sheriff's Office Solon substation as the Stephen R. Stang Public Safety Building.
The resolution just reflects the conversation from in December when Sheriff Kunkel was here. The plaque that was presented as part of the dedication with the intent to follow up with formal approval because, that's important. And this is a dedication to recognize Steve Stang's public service to the Solon community.
I'll move to approve resolution number 24.
I'll second it. Duncan,
Yes.
Farland,
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Kramer. Yes. Takes us to resolution 2404, connection fee adjustment.
Dave, do you want to talk about that?
Every year we go through this, it's an adjustment to the fees that we've identified for trying to recover cost associated with the water storage tank, well, and the previous wastewater plant upgrade, as well as the north trunk sewer. There are three different components to this. The water connection fee is for the water storage tank. And for the well, the wastewater plant, self-explanatory as is the north trunk sewer. We look at the 2014 engineering news record construction cost index year-end average. That's the 9,807 number on the table. That was when we did the estimates, the index, and then they take that index and they adjust it each year for the adjustment in the construction cost. So the end of year 2023 average index was 13,358, showing a 36.21% increase over the 2014 or base year. So we adjust the 2014 fees by that amount to arrive at the 2024 fees that we'll charge.
Any questions or discussion?
I'll move to approve resolution 2404.
Duncan,
Yes.
Harlan,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer. So next we have the budget work session. Janet, Chris, Liz, I don't know if you're planning on sticking around for the budget or not. If not, we can jump down if everybody's okay with it, go through committees, reports, everything like that. If everybody's gonna stick around, then we can go ahead and go through in order with that.
I'll see it.
I'm staying.
All right. So if you don't mind, let's just jump down, run through committee.
Committees, let's see, the personnel committee will be meeting this week. They're reviewing the wage range information. Buildings needs and growth, I'll be reaching out to you very soon. Building needs and growth is now Cole and Lauren. John's now switched to personnel, so we'll take up, so, but those are the two committees that are meeting in the short term.
Utilities.
Utilities, I'm working on getting meetings, yes. I will, ideally, we can meet before the next council meeting for them as well, so lots of committee activity this week. Just wanted to, Helen, you guys don't realize what these guys go through day to day. We hear them on the radio, we hear how they're working together, we hear how tired they are, we hear their weariness in their voice, and, you know, we're just so fortunate, and I know we all know it, but, you know, we've got to just every opportunity we can, we've got to acknowledge the amazing work that our public works does. You know, what they did in the last week, was a miracle, really, it was a miracle. I just want to make sure that we just, you know, understand, make sure they understand how much we appreciate their work. Garbage, a little frustrating, but it is what it is. They're gonna pick up all the garbage, regardless of what size tag, you know, cart you have. They're gonna pick it all up this week. You just put the bags out. They're gonna do their best. Now, and there were still Christmas trees underneath the snow that didn't get picked out. We'll deal with those when the snow melts. Also, planning and zoning will be meeting, this month. No items have been submitted, but they are looking at 3 zoning items. One is the building height issue. One is the ADUs that, Janet had mentioned. William Gordon, he came here last year with that group that he's with, that's really asking all the communities in the area to consider beefing up the additional dwelling units to support additional housing for seniors. And then the third item is the easement setback. So they'll be looking at those 3 items this month, which is good because, you know, those are kind of side issues, so that'll be their only agenda items, no site plans or rezoning.
Maybe, what's the date of that meeting?
It's the 30th, Steve.
30th. Thank you.
And I think that's all.
Council comments?
I'd just like to say how awesome Scott and his crew have done. I know it's a lot of time on the road, a lot of time away from your families, a lot of little sleep. So very cold temperatures, very heavy snow. You guys were just awesome. You tell from the Facebook community too. Usually they don't rally as much as they do, and they really got behind you guys. So really proud of the work you guys have done.
Well, it all goes to the present and past councils for being, allowing us to have the equipment to do our job too. So thank you.
Yeah. I would, probably doesn't mean a lot to you, Scott, from way out here, but all the people I talk to, same thing. Everybody is really proud of how you take care of, I mean, I don't know how you do it, but certainly I read a few of the negative comments, but overwhelmingly you guys do a wonderful job, and I can't say enough about that.
Thank you.
All right, rally on the same thing, Scott, you and the gang. I think it was Tuesday night or Wednesday night, I stopped in at Casey's and grabbed some snacks because we were gonna do a movie night. And here's Scott, and Scott's in there getting ready to start warming things up before the guys come back in. And that was after you were in there, what, probably 3 or 4 in the morning, or God knows how many hours during the day. Then here at 7 o'clock at night, they're ready to go back in, or 8 o'clock at night it is. So again, the dedication that everybody has and the condition that our streets were compared to other towns to it, we can't speak enough to it. So kudos to you and the guys for sure for everything that we do.
Thank you.
And as we prep for budget season, Tammy, Roman, Susie, Liz, Scott, Brody, everybody is going to be putting in a lot of time and prep work. So thanks in advance. Maybe a delayed thanks for some of the prep work that's already gone into it, but it's going to be a busy January. So appreciate all the prep work. With that, let's take a quick break before we dive into the budget. That.
I got a lot of buddies.
And I'll start to get ready.
There are.
Yeah. Sandwiches and chips.
I think we got 150,000 because we got our deductions and they had.
All right, Steve, we're going to take it to you if you need a break.
I'll go check on the oranges outside.
We're just taking a quick break.
Yeah, you're,
Is that one? Oh. No, Susie.
Susie,
Yeah, Steve.
you're doing a wonderful job too.
She's gone, but I'll tell her.
Oh, she is, okay.
She had to go get the sandwiches out of the fridge. She is doing an amazing job. Can't tell you how many garbage calls she
Oh.
got.
I've seen some of the chatter back and forth. It's amazing. Hi, Susie.
Hi.
How are you, Grandma?
Good, cold. What's the temperature there?
Well, I hate to tell you, but it's cool in the morning.
Yeah.
It's in the middle 60s today, and this next 2 weeks, middle to upper 70s.
I take it.
I know.
What's Barb?
She's doing wonderful. She's wanting to know how you like all the anonymous responses.
Chickens?
Yeah, I know.
Susie was just talking about that.
Oh, Lord. How's the new arrangement there in the council chambers?
It's taken some getting used to, but
I bet it is.
I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
We're recording, by the way.
Okay.
Remind them that we're
But our funding back to school, we're not happy about it.
Yeah, you get on a routine, you're like, I want to go anywhere you.
Yeah, that's really. It's a license. They're having to fill it out, some of those guys, they're born, and they're born.
And we used to burrow in and then.
No, we told, we weren't leaving. We'll build this. Leland just started playing fun now. Anderson's up at 1:30.
Okay, that's great. And
Right.
we can do together. There's a lot there,
Yes, it's the 29th. Yeah, last Monday. So it does get confusing. It tends to fall for usually, but it is. Okay. And then, yes, if you and Leland are interested. Second Saturday.
Should be a less all the grades.
Oh, Brody came out.
Recording.
Don't be inappropriate.
Last year we had one home game.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and it's Greenville couldn't host, so in not merging. They don't have to travel.
They called me, we're sitting here at your dad was.
They're really strict about stuff because
But Steve was taking my truck, taking trailer box. She's like, oh, I saw your truck in town. Oh, thank God. Yeah. Back home. Yeah.
Facility. It'd be yard turf, then they could have three basketball courts, and then there's a track around.
I don't think Kirkland would have really in there. I think it's a perfect size. It's got a cheaper for the little, yeah, it's good some old whatever. And then two old for it. Yeah. So yeah, we don't think on this might already be like. No, yeah, but I think they added on to it since that.
Can you hear us now, Steve Duncan? Can you hear us?
Yes, yep.
All right, while everybody eats, I'm gonna go through the preliminary presentation before we get into the nitty gritty of this 2025 budget. So first of all, I want to start by thanking staff. It has been a trying time when the state passed these legislative changes last year, and trying to make sense of it has been quite an ordeal. The directors, Liz, Brody, Scott, have really risen to the challenge. The challenge was we didn't know if we were going to see an increase at all. We didn't know if we were going to see a decrease. We really had no idea. There was a lot of good guesses that the League of Cities was presenting, and but the truth is nobody knew, because everybody's demographics are so different. How many businesses they have, their business valuations, how many seniors they have, how many veterans. There's so many pieces to this, it's very difficult. And so starting back in October, Roman reached out to our directors and said, we don't know what we're facing, but we need to be prepared for the worst. And so credit goes to Liz and Brody and Scott and Roman for really just hunkering down. I mean, the budget that you're going to see tonight is really a really raw version, because we did not get the valuations till late in the day, January 3rd. Leaving us little time to really, little time. So had we even met last week, it would have been even more raw, because we really hadn't had time to process it. But what I can tell you is that we are in good hands, because everybody rose to the challenge. And what you are going to see tonight, we're going to focus mostly on general fund, is that just this approach that we have. There's no fluff in this general fund. These are true needs. Every department. Roman have met with the director several times. I've met with them. We have really worked to get this to a point where this is a very responsible budget. What we ended up with was about $80,000 of additional property tax. Not what we're used to. We're used to more than that, but it wasn't less, which we are glad. I asked the directors to come in with a budget that is no increase over the current year. And then the next level of, okay, if it does come in a positive, in any way, kind of that next level, not your dream, not even your true wants, but your true needs. And that's the budgets that you're gonna look at tonight. Roman has done the bulk of the work behind the scenes on this. I'm going to do the initial presentation, but I don't want to take that away from him, because he has really been the one behind the scenes working the numbers and working with the directors. That said, the presentation, you have a folder like this that has all the budget things that we're going to go over. And then there's another clip packet that is some information Brody's put together when we get to the recreation part. So the first thing in your packet is going to be this, and I printed this off because some people like to take notes as we're talking. The same presentation is going to be on your screen, but feel free. These are your copies, and this is your folder. When we're done tonight, you can leave it at the table. You can take it back with you, but if you do take it with you, I encourage you to bring it back next week. So we're going to start off looking at the revenues for coming into the city, and all cities deal with the bulk of our revenues are come through property taxes. And in Iowa, our property taxes have a rollback. Agricultural and residential are tied together with a 3% cap. Commercial, industrial, railroad, and residential have different rollbacks. And quite frankly, the bulk of all cities rely on property taxes. As you can see in this slide on the screen, this shows an FY 24, all of the cities in Iowa, their general fund revenues. So 44% of all cities in Iowa, property taxes make up 44% of all the revenues in Iowa City. So that's why property tax is such a big deal. That's why whenever the legislature starts talking about messing with property taxes, everybody's just goes crazy, because it's how we, it's our primary source of income and revenue. And not just for us, but for all cities. Then once you get into, once you realize that, okay, 44% of all of our general fund revenues come from property tax, almost 60% of those are coming from residential. So it's also, that's where that rollback, and when they're making adjustments to residential, that's where it's just that next level of concern for cities on how to be able to, provide the services for their community. So currently, a residential rollback this year is 54.6501. Now, you'll remember the snafu last year that caused all the hubbub because they made a Department of Revenue. Their calculation wasn't correct because some legislation needed to be passed. That was done very quickly. That created the situation where we thought we were going to be at 56%. They lowered it to 54%. And we had to make some last minute, emergency cuts. Also, last year was the first year they put into the business rollback, where the first $150,000 of all businesses is taxed at residential rate versus the 90%. That was an impact that was new last year. So we look at this year's number, the residential rollback is 46.3428%. I've been doing this a long time. I can't even tell you the last time the rollback was 46.3428%. What that means, that rollback, the lower the rollback is, the less money the cities get. But it also means the less money the property owners pay. And that's the goal for the legislative body in Des Moines. So the higher the rollback, the more money that the cities get, but it's also more taxes people pay. The difference of that is 15.2% less property tax coming to us just because of that rollback change.
If I might add, Iowa League of Cities also mentioned to us that this is like one of the biggest drops ever. There's only been one other time that it was even larger drop than it is this 8%. So it's an interesting time.
So this all stems from House File 718. This is the bill that was passed last year that caused so much ruckus amongst cities in Iowa. And it continued that business property tax reduction of that first 150,000 evaluation. So the first 150,000 is taxed at your residential rollback, and then anything above that is taxed at 90%. Most of our small businesses are small businesses, so many of them are not over that 150,000, property values. So huge impact to a community like ours. The other change that happened in House File 718 was the elderly tax credit. It is increasing from $3,250 to $6,500 and reduces their taxable value, so if they're it comes right off your valuation, your taxable valuation. And then the military tax credit also. What they're telling us on that elderly tax credit is approximately 35% of all property has at least one person in the household 65 or older. So Iowa League of Cities recommends, we can anticipate at least that's going to impact, at least 35% of our community has at least one person 65 or older. That equates to almost $10 million statewide for Iowa cities. The even worse impacts, and those aren't bad impacts. I mean, elderly and, business, tax breaks for businesses, elderly and veterans, all understandable, all important, aspects of House File 718. However, just an example of how it's just another area that it does impact the city's overall property tax revenue. The biggest changes are to the 810 levy. So every city can levy up to their regular levy up to $8.10 per $1,000 in valuation. We have done that. In all the years that I recall, levied at 810. And I guess the best way to describe this is there's two sheets clipped together after your packet. And this look like sheets you probably would rather not read. But anyway, I've highlighted at the top. One says June 30th, 2024. One says June 30th, 2025. What you, the one that says 24, as the last date, that is our current property tax certification. Then the other one where it says 2025 is our proposed, that's our first draft of our levy. You're gonna notice a couple of things on here. First, on the current year, there's a whole lot more levies on here than the draft. And what they did is they did away with they did away with a lot of the individual levies, and they're going to a consolidated general fund levy. So they did away with, they had multiple levies for civic centers, for libraries, for a variety of things that they considered regular general levy levies. They've done away with that. They're consolidating them all into one 810 levy rate. However, they're not going right to 810. What they're doing is they're looking at your growth of your city, and they're creating a ratchet down. And so any city that has grown, depending on how you've grown depends on your ratchet down. Now, if you look at the one that has for June 30th, 2025, you're gonna look, do you see where it says taxable growth 9.43? Kind of toward the top to the right. Any city that has grown over 6% is getting a 3% ratchet down. If you've grown, I don't have the breakdowns in front of me, like 2% to 5.9, it's a 2% ratchet down. We grew at 9.43%. We got the 3% ratchet down. So they are lowering us down to say, yes, you grew, but you don't get to capitalize on all that growth. You only get to capitalize on 6.24%. And so what they're doing is they're lowering our 810 to reflect that. Then in 2029, they're going to put everybody back up to 810. But for the next 4 years, we're going to be subject to this ratchet down depending on our growth. Now, the bad part of that is we've always relied on our growth to help fund the city's needs. Because we grow, as you grow, you have more streets to plow, you need more people to plow streets, I mean, you need more people, so. You're growing, but we're not being able to capitalize on the resources we need to keep up with our growth. You know, this ratchet down is going to, you know, keep us at a level for the next 4 years. Because we can't get to the 810 to even, so that ratchet down is gonna depend on our growth. We're likely gonna be over the 6%. We're probably for the next 4 years, we're probably gonna see that 3% ratchet down. You know, the flip side to this is it, you know, the intent of all this is for the property owner. That's the intent. All of our assessments went sky high. And this is an attempt to reduce property taxes, just reduce overall income tax rate in Iowa. This is part of the plan. So that's just seeing it in works right here. This is what they've been talking about for months. And this is it right in front of us. All those consolidated levies that didn't used to be there, a lot of them are gone. And so our 810 is not going to be 810 right now. In this example, it's going to be 7.864. The reason general fund is so important is because general fund supports the majority of our services as far as our emergency services, our staff, our cultural and recreation. The general fund supports so much of the budget, and so any dollars taken away from that is going to hurt. And is going to, but the flip side is there's a lot of communities that aren't seeing growth. So the good part of this is we saw growth. We're at least being able to capitalize on the 6.24% versus none. So, you know, looking at the positive, there are some positives. If you go to this next page that I have on the screen, what you're seeing on that proposed is a levy rate of 11.08081. And that is a preliminary number based on the data that we have been working on for the last few weeks. This number is going to change potentially as we have conversations here over the next few weeks, but this is the number now as our, you know, based on the budget, the numbers that are in front of you tonight. Now, what you'll see also on this sheet is that our taxable valuation history. And of course, that's reduced by that 3%. It would be 3% higher without that ratchet down. And also you can see our levy history. This does take us over $11 for the first time. If you stay with this, you stay with the budget as presented. How this looks on the next page, how does this look for the property owner? If you look at those calculations on the top page, on the top half of that page, you see our current rollback times the and I'm just using $100,000 as an example. If you have a property that's assessed at $100,000, you're going to apply the rollback, and then you're going to apply our levy rate. And that top half is our current year, and the lower half is the proposed is the new rollback, and then the proposed levy rate. What you're seeing is that property taxes in this example go from $689 to $513.52. So it is a reduction, and that is the goal of the legislator, is to lower property taxes. And those are dollars that just won't come the city's way.
I think that will be a good talking point for all this too, is when it comes out, if the levy is where it's, the first draft is at $11 and some change. It's the highest it's ever been, but if you look at what each person's gonna be paying, they will be paying less in taxes because of the rollback. So that's, I'm sure people will hear the negatives of the levy went up, it's higher than it's ever been, but their tax bill itself, that will be a good thing, just a talking point, because I'm sure we'll hear about that.
All right, then the next page, this is a history of all the Johnson County levies. So even with the 11.08, we would still be the, this in the 2024 is our current year. So we are currently, you know, with our 10.99, we are still the third lowest in the county. And even if we had the 11.8 right now, we would still be the third lowest in the county. Impressive to be able to, you know, hold that levy down as long as we have. So the next slide is, this is the property tax by class. So all of the property taxes that we pay are divided up between the school, county, cities, and other. Right now, 40% of our taxes go to schools, 22% go to counties, 30% go to cities, and all other is cemeteries, ambulance, there's a variety. And the next slide, though, I know it's hard to read. This is, property taxes are actually divided into 10 different levies. So this, if you find Solon down there, if you go across the top, so our property taxes are split up between the county, the assessor, the ag council, the school, the state of Iowa. Area school is, there's a difference between area school, like your community colleges versus your school district. And then cemetery. So as you read across the top, there are varieties of places. Now cities get the blame usually. But again, this is good talking information, you know, 30%. You know, roughly 30% of the taxes you pay actually go to the city, the majority go to the school. So just good talking points if you have, and this is for this current year, the schedule.
And that the graph that you have on the page before, that's Solon's breakdown.
That's
Or
that's the state of Iowa.
Okay.
That's all cities. That's it. Collaborative of all cities. So that's, you know, that's kind of the ends my portion on the property taxes portion of our revenues. Next big part of our revenues is our road use tax distribution. They're proposing $133 per person, and our population is 318. They go by your most current census. If you ever hear of cities doing a midterm census, this is usually why, because it's your census that determines your road use. And if cities that are growing quickly, while there's a cost to doing a midterm census, a city that's growing quickly, the benefit usually outweighs the cost of doing that because they want to be able to capitalize more dollars. So right now we're expected to get $401,394 from road use. Local option sales tax is another big revenue source for us, and overall the state is seeing an 11.6 increase. However, Tiffin just voted local option sales tax in, and they distribute local option sales tax in your county by population. So with Tiffin coming on, it will decrease the amount that we're getting. If Iowa City or Coralville ever came on, it would decrease even more. How they do it is, one of the things right now is historically Coralville and Iowa City have not passed the local option sales tax because a lot of the retail stores are in Coralville, but Iowa City would get the larger portion because they have the higher population. Right now, that keeps them at odds, so to speak, from wanting to do that. The more cities that come on will reduce our local option sales tax. Heidi Cool has been working, who we've been working with on the financing for the North Trunk Sewer, has reached out to the Department of Revenue. She, I don't know if you recall in her presentation in December, but she has said that she feels pretty comfortable. We can rely on about $500,000 a year to be able to maintain that even with tipping on. So that's good news. Not as much as we've been getting, but it's not a huge reduction either. And the reason that's important is because we have debt tied to that local option sales tax, specifically the fire station and the East Fifth Street construction. So those are the two projects we have tied to that local option sales tax that we want to be able to, we can ensure that we can rely on those funds to keep those bond payments. So that's my synopsis on revenues. Now we're going to quickly go through the expenditures and so expenditures, you know, a big majority of our expenditures outside general operations are employee wages. One of the things that has been my reoccurring message to city staff throughout these last several months is that we are going to be asking all of our staff to be doing more with less. And so the priority of this budget has been to ensure that we are paying competitive wages. And we work, and we'll be going through the wage range process here the next few weeks to ensure that. But also the personnel committee, which is Cole and Lauren, when they looked at the COLA, had decided to. You will be on it, but Cole and Lauren looked at it last, November-ish. And they are proposing 3%. So when you look at the consumer price index, the national CPI is 3.7 and the Midwest is 3.2. They felt that the 3% was a bit on the conservative side, which was necessary given our budgets, the state legislation changes, but also reflected, a commitment to staff to ensure that they are, getting a good rate in their cost of living adjustment, as well as just to make sure we're staying competitive as an organization. So 3% is anything to add? 3% is the number I use in the calculations, and then we always also budget an additional 3% for merit. At 2% is an automatic wage increase for merit, and we add the extra 1% for budgeting purposes, just to provide that little bit of cushion. We know that, somebody we budgeted hired it at this wage, it may be different as staff changes, or if we add, so we like to just have that little bit of cushion in there. The employee cost index is also something that is good information to know as employers, that it's expected that to provide benefits and all the things that go with being an employer, that's going to be approximately 4.8% higher this year compared to 3.4% last year. So everything's going up, the cost of insurance, the cost of, providing benefits to employees is going up by 4.8%. IFRS is maintaining as they have for the past several years. The employee contributes 6.29% and the employer contributes 9.44%. Insurance. I've been working with Ellison. I have not seen final numbers. They have shared some preliminary numbers and we are looking at at least a 15% increase in property insurance. Some cities have even said 20%. But for now, we're staying with the 15% until I hear otherwise, because that's what Mike has told me to go with. So, and then health insurance, that is in the 4 to 5% range. So good, because these flipped last year. It was lower for property insurance, higher for health insurance, and they kind of flipped. So those are the numbers we've been using in this budget as well. Water rates are gonna stay with their traditional water, 2% to 2%. But we are going to be increasing the sewer debt from $5 to $10 in preparation of the new wastewater plant. And Heidi will talk in December, and that will go into effect in July. This next slide is, this is provided by the League of Cities, and this is a reflection of general funds by all cities in Iowa from their FY23 budget. And what you'll see here is that public safety is the largest portion with 44%. The next one is culture and recreation at 20%, and followed by general government at 16%. And then fourth in place is public works at 9%. When you see the next slide, you will appreciate the fact that there's a lot of reasons why, you know, a lot of our discussion has been about law enforcement, because you can see from that slide that law enforcement eats up the majority of most city budgets. And so we are in a very fortunate situation. This dollar bill is reflexive of the city of Solon's general fund. This is what we submitted as a budget in FY24. We have 39% or 39 cents of every dollar is going toward public works. 33% of every dollar is going to culture and recreation, and that's library and recreation combined. 19% is going to general government, and 10% is going to public safety. So that's just our general fund. So it's pretty, I think it reflects a lot of positives for Solon. I think the direction the council, this council, previous councils has taken has set the stage for this. You know, there's a lot of people that ask what's the secret of Solon. This is one of the secrets of Solon. This is why we are able to be as successful as we are as a community, to be able to move projects forward, to be able to have the money to move projects forward. This is why. So thought that was good, a good visual as we head into looking at the general fund expenditures, which is what we're going to do next. And then just a quick overview just of all the things I've talked about. Our taxable valuation increase is 6%. Should have been 9%, but we're at 6%. The rollback's 46.3428. Our road use is $133 times our population at 3,018. Property insurance, 15% increase. Health insurance of 5%. 3% COLA, 3% merit, and then our water and sewer increases of 2%, and then the $10 sewer debt. So that is that's just the pre-budget presentation, just the one get you up to date on all the things that have been happening within the property tax realm in the last year, and just set the stage for those, you know, when we're talking about the numbers in these expenditures that you're going to see, you can understand the behind the scenes numbers and how they're calculated.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind. The health insurance and the health benefits for the employees, that 4 to 5%, is that still a soft number, like the property insurance, or is that reasonably?
I would consider everything at this point a soft number until we get close to finalizing these numbers. Then I'll reach back out and confirm, are we sure that these are gonna be our numbers? We don't see our health insurance numbers, actual numbers until about the end of March, where it's too late for us. So I'll do a final check-in with both our health and our property insurance, you know, as we near this and say, I need your best solid numbers to date. So, but I can say that the message I received is they felt that they were not going to be above 5. So I hope that's the case. Any other questions? All righty, so this is, you should have a page that says your FY25 revenue and expenditure budget recap. We're gonna focus mainly on the general fund tonight. And the general fund right now is showing a deficit of $113,639. That number, there are some transfers that have to happen between capital equipment into general. We'll go over those when we get there. That is not a super concerning number for me because of those transfers, but so when we look at those transfers that are going to happen, we are pretty much balanced in the general fund. But there's a lot of factors we don't know yet. One, we've got to talk about the sheriff's, the law enforcement. We need to talk about the wage range, which we'll be doing this week. There's some things that are still out there pending, that could change that number. Also, we have been so focused on general fund, we have not had a chance to look at water, which you see, and sewer has some work that needs done there. We need to figure out how we're gonna shift some dollars or use some dollars from other places to help cover those. Because as I said, the things in this budget are pretty bare bones. So if they're on this list, they're considered needs. So we just need to figure out how there's other funding we can allocate to help cover these. But again, we'll get to water and sewer next week. We're gonna focus on general funds tonight.
So just to piggyback on that, the general fund historically at this point of the budget has been ranging -80 to -122. So we're right in that range that we're typically at this stage of the budget.
It's wrong. So behind that, you have two packets, one that has an R and one that has an E. One's revenues, one's expenditures. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on the revenues because they are what they are, and we don't have a lot, we just don't have a lot of flexibility on those. So we're not gonna spend a lot of time on those tonight. We're just gonna jump right into the expenditure sheet with the E at the top. And we are just gonna go by department, and the departments, all department directors are here. This is their opportunity to talk about their department, talk about their needs, talk about the budget they presented. They have given all this information to Roman, who's put this all in here. How you read this is the very first column that says prior year actual. This is what was actually spent last fiscal year FY23. The next one, original budget, is the budget this current year, FY24. We haven't amended anything yet, so the next third column is going to be the same as the original. So those are gonna look the same. The next column, actual through January, is what we've actually spent through January of this year for FY24. And then in the requested column is going to be this as the budget request for FY25. So two things, you can look at what we spent actually at mid-year, you know, and like, okay, you know, if we've already spent For example, Johnson County Sheriff's Office, we've already spent 52 of our 117 budgeted. But last year we spent 99. So those are just important numbers to help you kind of make sense of the budget number. It also lets you see if the amount that's being requested for FY 25 is more or less than what was budgeted for this year. So just a reference number. So we're going to start by going just through these by department, starting with the Johnson County Sheriff's contract. You'll have a sheet in your packet. It's just a short sheet with a green line at the top. This is similar to what we looked at when Brad was here in December. You know, unless I hear otherwise, unless you decide otherwise, I know there's a new committee that may want to spend a little more time on this. But what Brad has proposed, this is just the schedule he proposed. I just put dollars to it. And then for FY 25, it would be 126,140. That's increasing our hours a week from 40 to 45. And then we always do pay the extra $40 for weekdays. And that's increasing the rate as he's shown from to 53 instead of the 49 that we're currently paying. And that's 87% of his cost of his wage. And then I've scheduled that out for the next 5 years as we talk about the 5-year contract. Now that we're not deciding the 5-year contract tonight, we're just deciding what number do you want in here for the purpose of us, you know, trying to figure out where we need to be for this budget.
For preliminary purposes, putting in what Brad's recommendation is, I think that would be a safe one, or like a conservative. I don't one thing with the new committee on it. I do think that it would be good for us to look through more closely about the patrol hours and things like that, and just see if there are calls, you know, outside of city limits. Are they being coded to us, just to look down, because the 5 hour per week jump, I think it would be interesting just of the current patrol, where are we at with it? Is everything that is on the report truly us? I know there's a lot of school visits on there, which I think are a good thing. But if they are ramping up visits at the school because of some of the recent events, is that something that we should be working with the school for, if the school is requesting it versus us requesting it, things like that? But this kind of,
I would agree. We do need to look at that school thing very closely. I just think over my time looking at it and ignoring it, there is a lot of time spent at the school and it's being charged that way. I think we just need to take a really close look at that and make sure that we feel comfortable that we're not financing something for the school district that really we shouldn't be. I don't know how else to say that, but I just think that's something we got to look at closely.
I think from a conservative approach with the budget, I think if we plug in what Brad has for starters, that's something as we look in more closely, that could be a number that comes down that helps. If any deficit budget.
That committee is, I believe, Andrew and Lauren. But for now, stay with that number.
I think that'd be a
Yeah.
good starting point for us.
Yeah.
So I think with the committee, we could have conversations with Brad as well. And if we decide we want to do something different, we can have the conversations around the whys and listen to concerns and everything like that.
Next one is emergency management. We have some utilities in there for the substation, the contract for, the contract is emergency management fee, and then the sirens, the set aside. So we really don't, I mean, we know what it's costing us to heat and cool that building now, so that's pretty, we just have it there as a placeholder. We'll probably create some other fund where we're tracking expenses for that, but for now, that's just a placeholder for it. Then we get down into, the next section is fire protection, and there we have, again, we have some expenses associated with the old building, the old fire station. You know, we're still paying, we're still heating and cooling it. So we had to put those somewhere, so for now, those are there. But the contract is the 60, is it 60 3/4, Susie? That we paid the Tri-Township based on our valuation. So 119,818 goes to the Tri-Township as our contribution to fire protection. And then each of the other townships pay their same, they pay their 60 3/4 cents per valuation as well. That's just, ours is obviously higher because we have a higher valuation. That takes us into animal control and then roadway maintenance. And those are Scott's departments. So again, we're just gonna, give Scott a chance to just talk about his department. And then as you look through the comparables, you can kind of see if you have any questions as to the numbers that he has down. Well, your stuff.
Oh. If you notice under animal control, I actually lowered that. Just not quite half. And that's just based upon the prior year's expenditures. Like we were budgeted heavy, so. Get down into roadway maintenance. Safety group. The contract amount is at $10,000. And that does get split, but under that safety group also, we take out some safety equipment if we make a purchase, comes out of there also. But I did lower that number by $5,000. Year before we spent $37.35, so that still gives me a little bit of cushion. We didn't have any safety equipment in last year's expenditures. Building maintenance got lowered. Vehicle gas, building maintenance went up $300, and that's just reflective of cost of living. Or not cost of living, no. 3% inflation factor. Vehicle gas took a big jump again, and this is a hard one for me to track. It's been hard ever since we got that fuel tank in. With the amount of fuel that the fire department uses and the school uses, fortunately, we get reimbursed, but we have to show that expense. And that's been a hard one to guesstimate. Last year we spent $44,000. So we had budgeted 38. This year I increased it to 45,000. Again, that's going to be money brought in also to repay or as revenue to counteract that expenditure.
With the school having their new bus location, is there a tank down there? Have they expressed any interest in putting a tank down there, or will they continue to use?
I have not heard anything about a tank, nor did they have it on the site plan. Vehicle and maintenance account, last year we spent $54,000. We had budgeted 45, and this year I requested 50,000. As a halfway in between point. Utilities. We had budgeted $10,000 last year, and this year I'm budgeting 5,000. We had spent 3,000, We no longer have electric meter. All the utilities are getting paid for underwater for the maintenance garages. We combined all 3 meters into 1 meter 3 years ago. So we can shave some or $5,000 off our utility asking. Telephone, internet stayed the same. Insurance, I have no control over. Service agreement. Roman, do you remember what I had, why it jumped?
Yeah, we bumped it up just because looking at the actual through January so far, we're roughly 10,000. And so we just kind of bumped it up just to see if that's gonna be a trend or not. We can always drop that down if we need to. But we just want to put a cushion in there just in case more work pops up.
What pops under the service agreement? Is that when we contract out if there's a water main, we need to bring somebody in?
That's underwater. Okay. So service agreement would be,
Is that
like
your Iowa One calls?
Iowa One calls come out of there and we get charged. So every time somebody calls in to locate in our community, the city gets charged for that. We have to pay Iowa One call for that service. Then there's other things. Yeah, ESCO gets, that's our IT management company, comes out of there. There's some other contracts that we have that come out of there, maintenance contracts. Operating supplies stayed the same. Street traffic signs, lights, that stayed the same. Street maintenance supplies, I actually lowered that. Capital equipment vehicles,
We got the schedule. here.
yep,
We have a schedule in there. Highlights. Says capital equipment schedule.
so again, this is money that we've already got set aside. But we have to repay, or we have to budget for the expenditure of whatever's on the schedule for next year. Next year's a pickup and.
You want to make some improvements to the truck.
Yep.
And then it also includes the leases for the mowers and the loaders.
It shows that as, so the truck expense and then the improvements to the truck. Those are already monies that we have set aside. And we have to show it as an expenditure here, but it'll be reimbursed with the set aside. The leases, the mowers are 15,000. And then the both loaders, the wheel loader and the track loaders at 21,000 for the year. Other capital equipment, that would be for like a tool or attachment. Maybe it's a welder or an air compressor, large tool item. Original land parking lot account, that is where I take out for traffic paint and such. Street improvements, I wish I had a cheat sheet.
I think it's patching, isn't it? Or do you do that on the road use?
It's under road use, but this may be for parking lots. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's what it is street improvements, and then on my cheat sheet, I have parking lots, so that's covering patching and parking lots. We did a big thing last year at the parking lot across the street here, huge patch project. Sidewalk construction. We need to go around and do some the city takes care of all the sidewalk portions that extend out to the street from the property line. And each year we're adding to that as far as our maintenance agreement, and that's reflected there.
Is there any concern with the through January for both street improvements and sidewalks that were greater than that, or is that something where we have reimbursements come in to help offset that?
No, we're just over budget right
Do we need to?
Actually, we do have some reimbursements.
now. Oh, we do.
So we have, the city's right now divided into 5 quadrants. And so Scott goes out and annually and he assesses that quadrant for repairs. And then we notify the property owners and we ask them, do you want to fix it or do you want the city to fix it? And I'd say what, is it 50-50 or I don't know, I think that maybe more. will
Probably
have to fix
75,
it.
25 up.
And so they have a whole year. It's not like they're blindsided with this. And then, so if they want us to fix it, we usually want to know like, you know, late summer, because we want to do the work between summer and winter. And then they have some time to reimburse us. So part of that is going to be reimbursed, and that happens, every year we're doing a section of town. But in that, often there are parts of sidewalks that are city. So, there's always, corners and things that we have to repair to as a city. So
Last
some
year
of
also,
those
we did major project with the trail over at Fox Ridge, taking care of broken items. Also the sidewalk going out to Old Mill, needed repairs in several spots, so
Is that something that you feel we should bump up? Do you feel pretty good with it?
I feel good with it right now.
And also just to point out, the last year, we didn't even get to 3,000 out of 10,000 budgeted, so just gotta have to close as they go, and depends on the properties too. One property could have three sidewalk tiles knocked out, one could have one, you just never know, so. That's where that 29.
when you get to the older parts of town versus the newer parts of town, it makes a difference too. How many repairs are really needed.
And then storm drainage improvements, that's for the annual curb and gutter program it's budgeted for. Historically, 120,000 for the last 3 years, 3 budgets, I believe. Otherwise, it was 100,000. But the cost to do it has more than quadrupled. So we get a lot less for the money that we're budgeting for. So 120,000 generally gets us about a block and a half on both sides. That's all I got.
The last one, street lighting.
Oh, street lighting. That went up, and Alliance trying to do a price increase. And I had it in my other budget, but I forget what the percentage increase that they were proposing. So I went ahead and factored that into what we spent last year, which increased it about $4,000.
Plus we have a lot more streetlights. Or will have.
Yep.
I know Willow Ridge is, theirs aren't all over.
The nice thing is, everything is getting put in with LEDs, so. We really don't see much of an increase.
Thank you, Scott. And as you can see, there's a lot of thought that's gone behind, and we don't usually go line by line, but and we don't need to go line by line, but it's just a good representation. There's been a lot of thought that's gone into each of the trying to, be a good steward of the resources that we have, and all the directors have just done an exceptional job. Looks like library's up next. Liz?
So the salaries, social security, Medicare, IPERS, insurance, obviously, again, I don't have control over that, so I just factored in the percentages that Candy gave me. And so that's what we worked on for those. So the first one that I really had impact on is the dues, memberships and magazines. We do provide a few magazines, but mainly it's that we have subscriptions to 3 local newspapers. And we have people come in every day to read those newspapers at the library. So that's that. An ILA and ALA memberships for me. We have Zoom that we provide for both programming, and our patrons can use it to host meetings. So those are the kinds of things that fall into that category. And I kept that flat. Actually, I had to go, let's see here. Yes, kept that flat to last year. And mostly what I was doing truly was trying to reduce and keep it flat other than those mandatory expenses. So that's what you'll see for the most part. I have not gone up wherever I can. And then I also, based on the past 3 years now of utilities with our solar panels, I was able to make a significant reduction in that line item. So that is the utilities, to get that down to where our actual has been, which that has been amazing. And I sure hope the snow melts soon so my solar panels can start making energy again.
One question I have just with the building maintenance, we're at just shy of 15,000 so far this year. We're at 18,400 last year. Feel comfortable with that?
Yes, I've been keeping it at 10, and part of that is many times I'm able to absorb those unexpected building issues. This one happens to be the radon that we didn't know we were gonna have. And so I usually can absorb it somewhere else, but then I also know that I have the fund that we're putting the 5,000 reserves towards every year, that I know that I have that as the other option then. So that's usually how we discuss it as a board, that, okay, this is our plan. We will hopefully absorb it in the regular budget, but if not, this is what we'll do. So yes, so I think that it's safe to keep it there. I skipped over the org vehicle equipment. We don't technically have a lot of org vehicle equipment, so this is where I hold my technology expenses. So when we have to do computer updates for patron computers, our various software licensing, that's what that line item is. Printers, those kinds of things. Telephone, internet, I was able to reduce that a little bit again, based on what actuals have been. Databases, those continue to go up each year and we continue to evaluate. So again, based on what usage we're seeing in the community, we have a couple on our list of, okay, if it continues to be this low, we'll probably eliminate those, possibly bringing different ones in that will be more useful to our community and fit those needs. Insurance, again, yes, I have no control over that, and that just keeps going up for the building. Publishing, we do try to support our local Solon Economist paper as much as we can. So we do participate in some of those big ad pushes because we are so grateful for their coverage every week. Megan gets to write an article every week and they publish it free of charge, talking about all the different things that go on in the library. So we sort of have a schedule where we will thank our summer reading sponsors as an ad. We will do an ad for the graduation, for the Santa letters, and then we also usually try to let people know about a big event. This year we did New Year's Eve, but we just feel like that partnership is so important. And it's not a significant amount of money, but I didn't want to take it out of the budget because I really believe in our paper and just how helpful that is for our community. Our educational programming, as you see from my reports every month, we are putting on an astounding number of programs and reaching an astounding number of people. And our staff is amazing at keeping that within budget, using their creativity in addition to the generous funds that you give us to be able to provide those programs. Library books, we are also keeping that at flat. Again, the collection managers are very good at looking at, okay, what things are going to be best for the community, making sure we've got diversity represented, but still staying within budget for those. Video materials and audio materials. It is amazing how many DVDs still circulate. And our collection manager does a great job with that and knowing what things are coming and having them ready. In the audio line, in addition to CDs, audiobooks where you're still playing in a CD player, that is also where I take my electronic purchases out. So we can also purchase electronic ebooks and audiobooks that adds on to our Bridges consortium that we pay for to the state library. So that gives us then more copies of those items for our community, again, to be able to download on the Libby app or Bridges on the website. Puzzles, puppet kits. This is where, of course, we do have puzzles that circulate. A lot of those come in as donations. Occasionally, we are buying them, but mainly we're adding puppet kits, which are a huge popular item with families. So they get both a puppet and a couple books. They can check that out. They do their own puppet shows. But then this is also where our Library of Things collection exists. And so that collection is continuing to grow. As I've talked about before, we've got a sewing machine, we've got a telescope, we've got a ukulele. Alexis does an amazing job curating that collection to provide our community the chance to try something maybe before you're going to buy it. A steamer, you maybe only need it once a year. So yes, you're going to come borrow it from us. Some gardening tools, cake pans, all of those types of things that just are another nice benefit to the community. So that's what comes out of that line. And again, kept that flat. Operating supplies. This is where our toner, our paper, any of our consumables that we use on a regular basis. And of course, toner keeps going up. So I've been trying to keep that just in line with what the expenses have been. So again, kept it flat to last year and just sort of looking at, okay, how much did we spend the year before? Where are we right now? That seems to be in line. Postage, I was able to reduce that a few $100s based on what our actual expenses have been. And then supplies, that supply line item is for volunteer appreciation and staff appreciation. So that's what that is for. And then the office equipment would then be non-consumable things. So, office chairs, those kinds of things that we use, but that are durable, that are going to last. So extension cords, those types of things. And I felt comfortable with bringing that down as well based on the prior year actual. And then I'll just put one little plug in. I know I've talked about this many times, but if you look at my salaries line, that line would not change at all if I was paying my part-time people holiday pay. Because the way I budget is 52 weeks of the year for their scheduled hours. So that cushion is in there already. And so if they are scheduled to work on a day that we're closed because it's a holiday, I already have that included in this budget line item. So it would not impact my salaries budget at all to be able to pay our part-time people for holiday pay. And I think that would go a long way towards boosting morale and showing that they are valued, since there's probably not much chance I'm ever going to get to make them full-time with the current budget constraints. So.
I wanted to also point out that, based on the budget based on these budget numbers, the county contributes, to the library. And based on the formula that was shared, 46% of the budget, $410,795, 46% will come into the city. We hope. We
Right.
have not
Assuming
heard
right.
of any reduction based on the new legislation that have passed. And we anticipate receiving $188,692 from the county.
And that's based on usage. So they have me calculate each year, and it's a rolling average of the last 3 years of how much circulation we see from in-city Solon versus Johnson County. And so it's about 46% for both of us. And then that extra little percentage is the open access. Iowa guarantees that anybody that lives in Iowa can have a library card at any library they would like to check out physical materials. So that extra little percent is, and we get some reimbursement from the state for that. It doesn't quite make it up completely, but it's something.
All right, thank you. And then, I guess, let's see, we can go to parks.
General parks. General parks actually stayed the same or was reduced. Matter of fact, it's about a $3,500 increase in asking over last year per budget. But this is reflective of an $18,000 increase just in insurance. So therefore, I am asking for less in the park budget. One line item, a big one, is for Rec and Nature Park improvements. It's been budgeted for this and also the current budget of 70,000. And you'll notice that we've only spent about 21,000. We didn't get the ball fields all completed. They're gonna come in yet this spring, so you'll see that number go up. Next year, we have another round of improvements to do. I'm drawing a blank.
To the ball field or?
Yeah, what are we doing for parks next year?
We're doing, well, I guess.
We're doing dugouts.
Some dugouts, yeah. Right, dugouts.
Yeah,
Are you doing anything to fields 3 and 4? This year's 1 and 2, correct? Or
Yeah,
what are you
so,
doing all?
so 3 and 4 got done
Yeah.
last year, 1 and 2 are getting done in the spring, and then for 3 and 4, we're gonna add dugouts instead of checking the kids.
and I'm sorry, I came unprepared tonight. I honestly thought that it was gonna be them on the hot seat, not me. And I didn't bring any of my budget stuff that I had.
Yeah, but worked a few extra hours over the last.
Yeah.
year, so
You've been a little distracted, yeah.
But anyhow, I'm asking less than what I had last year.
Is there salaries dips decent amount? Is there any big reason on that, or is it just how we're splitting up the salaries, or is there?
We had
how we're
actually
dicing it up?
budgeted for another full-time staff member in Public Works. And that was due to, 2 years ago, a year ago, put together a plan for staffing. I've changed some stuff up over the last, year, and things seem to run smoother. And we're getting what we need to get done, plus getting extra stuff done. And I really felt that, at this time, I'm not really ready to put another person on. And so it's getting taken back out of the budget.
And what you're gonna see is that we just tried to do a little truer between the part-time and the salary and the full-time salary, a little more reflective. So that's part of it too. It's really not much of a change. We still have some cushion in the budget. We know we have more seasonal staff. And so it's a conservative reflection. There is still some wiggle room in the overall salaries. You know, if there needs to be some overlap, there's some discussion of retirement. There's potentially some overlap that's gonna be needed, things like that.
And this still just confirming that it's reflects the overlap. I was gonna ask that. And there's rumors of potential retirement that we could hire in advance and do some training.
Next up is recreation. Brody has gone to the task of putting together some information. It's put together. He's done some, he's put together some information of, you know, just his, you know, he's been on staff since March of last year. He has, you know, put together some information just to give you a good reflection on the, you know, department happenings. Brody has one of the largest challenges of, I think, all of us, because he has an expectation to bring in a certain amount of revenue, whereas that's not the case for any other department. So it's a challenging task. He knew that up front, and he went right to work on it right away. And so what he's done is he's just, you know, put together some information, just kind of help them demonstrate all of the plan of attacks he's been working on since he came on last March. So I think his plan is to kind of give you that kind of preview before he goes over his budget numbers.
Yeah, sure. So last time I was here, I think it was pre-Halloween. We're gonna have a big Halloween event. So I just added that on here, just kind of give you guys an overview of what's been going on since I've been here. So we had the big Monster Mash Bash. It was the trunk or treat down at the SRNA. brought in about 1,500 participants, and we saw revenue from sponsors, fees from. The event was free. We had a side thing of bouncy houses, and we charged $5 a head for that. So we got some fees from that, and then we had a vendor fair in there and silent auction. And overall, we made about $1,000 in profit. So it was actually a pretty solid event for my first time.
Sorry to stop you there. One thing that we didn't mention in here, we actually got a grant
Oh, yeah.
for this, and we just received the final report for, so we're gonna get reimbursed $500 for it. So really, it's more $1,500 in profits. Okay, we're probably gonna work on that this week and get that submitted.
And then when I got here, we were getting some sponsorship packages out from the previous director. I kind of revamped it this year to make it more simple for our sponsors. There's a little handout in here. That's what I sent out to all the businesses in town in the area. It helps us with t-shirt costs and then any additional youth sports things that pop up, that equipment or whatever it may be. And right now we're currently at, I think last year we got about 14,000 sponsorships, but that happened, we were still getting them when I got here in March. So it was still going on. Right now we have, I don't know if that picture's in there. All of these businesses have committed a sponsorship, and I think we had $1,500 more that just from today. We got E&J's said they'd give me 1,000, and then I think the Legion was another 500. But it's just cool to see some of the area businesses wanting to support the recreation department and also get their name out there with t-shirts and then signs at the ballparks. But we're currently at, I think a little over 9,000 in sponsorships, and I just sent out stuff 2 weeks ago, so we're going good on that so far. I applied for a couple grants this year. I guess would you guys consider that a grant that I got from the Solon area? Okay, the Solon Area Community Foundation. So there's a little sheet here about our dugout renovations. So after talking to Scott, the estimated cost was going to be about $16,000. That was for 2 dugouts and then a concrete slab down for 1 on field 3 and 4. The Solon Area Community Foundation said that they would pay for the remainder portion of, I think, field 4. There's already concrete slab down, so they're going to pay for the dugout cost, and that was about $6,500. And we were going to start on that directly after winter. Scott and his team were going to kind of oversee that project. I applied for a $1,000 mini grant through the Iowa Parks and Recreation Association for an additional sand volleyball court. I got here, and in the summer I opened up sand volleyball just for the end of summer, and it filled up like instantly. So this year my plan is to have one or during baseball, softball kind of on the weekend, and then one after baseball, softball, Tuesday, Thursday, as we did this year. And then if we want to have a tournament, maybe during beef days or tournament during volleyball time, it's a lot easier to have a tournament with 2 courts rather than 1. And you can get more games and more teams to participate that way too. So we thought that would be a good idea to apply for that there. And I think the cost for that was going to be around, $2,000, and we weren't going to have to cover that much. After we talked about it, it was just sand cost essentially. And then I was going to apply for a grant from beef days for the remainder of the dugouts down at the SRA for down to 3 and 4. So that was going to be for another 10,000, I think, or something around that number. And then this packet right here kind of shows our increases in participation through activities. The yellow is any activities that happened during COVID. The red is any activities that got canceled. Could have been low numbers of COVID. I'm not 100% sure because before I got here. And then I added in the green, kind of the new programs that previous directors started or new programs that I have incorporated this year. Some of the changes. So the first year we had 1,100 participants. Now we're up to roughly 1,500. So that's a 72% increase. And this year I've added dance, and tennis was added right before I got here. And then we had Tiny Tots tonight. And that's why I was here late. I was running that down at the community center, some 3-year-old sports for a few weeks. Some additional programs that I've seen work in different towns in the area or just different departments I've been in is tumbling, taekwondo. Those would be some additional revenue sources that I think would also get usage out of the community center, because some of the areas that we have in the community center, like cafeteria, don't use as much. If we had taekwondo or tumbling, you could utilize that while we're already there doing something else. And we've looked into tapping into some new groups. I'm looking at some different senior activities around the community center and inclusive rec that has been, I don't have any experience in inclusive rec, but there was a parent that reached out to me. He's coached 3 of our sports since I've been here. He's got some with disabilities, and he's kind of helped head this situation with me. We talked to, I think there's a flyer in here if you want to look at it. We talked to the assistant superintendent at the school. He's in charge of he oversees all the special ed. He has reached out to all of his teachers, and they're sending stuff to all their parents. I put something on Facebook yesterday, and I've got a ton of positive responses. Just from people that reached out there willing to volunteer, people that have kids that would love to participate. And it's not even just from Solon, it's Tiffin, Coralville, Swisher, anything in the area, because the only Parks and Rec department that offers any sort of inclusive rec really in the state is Iowa City. And I've met with their director, or their inclusive rec director, and it sounds like they're having trouble tapping into the group. But they're willing to help us in any way possible. But it sounds like we kind of have it rolling now, tapping into this group. So that would be another big thing. I think we get a lot of participants in different activities there. And obviously, with the growth of all these different activities and participants, it's more than just youth sports at this point. We got adult sports, we have movies with the library, we have a ton of different activities that we're offering. I threw in here our gym calendar. I try to make things clear for people that come to the community center just to see when the gym's open, other things that are going on in the gym, times that they can come use it. I think since I put this calendar out, we've gotten an uptick in people using the weight room, batting cages, and just different birthday parties. Birthday parties they're on this list too. Before I got here, they're charging $20 an hour for birthday parties, and it was kind of a lame setup. You just got the gym and you brought in your own stuff. Now, with the addition of tot time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we get a lot of 3 and under and parents coming in to use the gym. We have some inflatables, some trikes and stuff like that. And I think we get about 12 kids every time. And with that, I added birthday parties with all the tot time equipment. And last year, I mean, some of it was from my birthday parties. We had 15 parties, and right now, from January to February, we're gonna have like 12 or 13 that are scheduled. So that has been a big thing that has been added at the community center at least. I tried to revamp and just kind of clean up some of our rental agreements, especially with our outdoor facilities. So baseball fields, the way it was set up before, the fees were kind of confusing. This year, I made an hourly per field fee. So if you have a tournament, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive to use our fields. I added a cleaning fee because I send staff down there, Scott sends staff down there, and they use all our paper towels, all our soap and all that. So to get some of that money back from them, just try to clean all those up. Other than that, kind of future needs, after working here for 8-9 months, I've been here. It would be very nice to have a full-time rec coordinator / assistant director. The 20 to 25 an hour is just kind of what I looked at different communities that have similar situations. Just with the addition of all of these participants, all these new activities, I can't be everywhere at once. So it would be, ideal to have that. And obviously, like Liz said, boosting that morale with workers. And then a part-time special events activities coordinator, someone kind of in charge of birthday parties, tot time, just a handful of hours a week. I mean, it's nice to have all these high school kids, but just having some permanent, trustworthy type person is really nice to have in there. KO, our old rec coordinator, I don't know if you guys know that, I hired a new rec coordinator already. He had to do some class at the university, and he got some of this experience through working here. And I talked to his professor, and it sounds like the potential for interns or work studies where the university pays a portion of their salary and we pay a portion is a possibility in the future. And that would kind of work in that part-time special events operations coordinator there. That's kind of all I have as far as an update on my stuff and kind of how it's been going here. We can go over the expense report or.
One thing real quick with the rates.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of topic last year on,
Mhm.
are we charging enough for non-residents?
Yes.
If that were a
No.
couple dollar difference, and is it something where we would either want to increase that gap? Or just have a flat rate that's higher and do like a credit for residents or something like that, where I know there's a lot of discussion on. They live within the school district, don't live in city limits, and I know that it's definitely a hot topic with that, but want to make sure that we're charging appropriately from a budget standpoint, and then also with the fields, I don't know if you have teams from out of town as well, looking if that's something that we would want to consider a community rate or a other rate, just looking at other ways to increase revenues.
Yeah, at least for the field usage, all the people that I've talked to at least said that they live in town or their kids, their teams from town. I don't know how I could police if they're out of town, you know what I mean? It's just kind of, you have to trust what they're telling me. As far as our rates go, they were kind of, when I got here, there were some activities that did a resident discount, some did a non-resident fee. After checking out all of the different area rec departments, everyone does a non-resident fee if they have one at all. I know North Liberty, I don't think does one at all. Iowa City and Coralville, I think they base it on a percentage of what that activity costs. So obviously, if we're charging $30 for something, it's gonna be a different non-resident fee than someone who charges $50 for it. Ours is $5 across the board, which is probably what they end up averaging out to be at most places. Our activities, as far as like the pricing goes, are more expensive than any other town in the area for the most part. I think we are similar with Tiffin and Coralville, but towns our size, I would say, everything's a lot lower. I think we're at a good spot there as far as how much we charge for those activities. We do a $5 non-resident fee, that's per participant. So if you have 4 kids that are signing up, that's an extra $20 per, and that's if you live outside city limits. And I think that's probably the best way to do it at the moment. I mean, I can look into percentage wise, but a lot of our activities are similar in price. I would say baseball, softball, and basketball, there's gonna be a little more cost associated with those. That's why I have those a little bit more expensive than some of the other activities. But flag football, soccer, volleyball, that's around 47 for the resident and 52 for the non-resident. And like I said, that's a decent amount more expensive than the average rec department our size. So I mean, obviously, for the community, we want to keep the cost low for recreation because there's so much club sports in the area. And I don't know what it costs to be on a club team, but I don't want to reach the point where people are picking club sports over our sports because the cost is about the same.
Everybody's tired of hearing this because I've told him this since day one, is that, you know, we're trying to do this all point approach on how to bring revenue into this department. He's done a lot of research on these, and he has consistently stood his ground that we've got to keep the, you know, we can find other areas to raise revenue, but the fees where they're at are where they should be. So you know.
I would say that, I mean, Mount Vernon, they're even cheaper than ours. And they have nicer facilities. Lisbon's way cheaper than ours. Tipton, way cheaper. But yeah, a lot of these places have nicer facilities. That's why I charge a little bit more. I mean, I'm not saying the community center is a bad facility, but it's not comparable to a lot of recreation centers in the area. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on those. But yeah, we can go into these line items.
I want to quickly just add, and Steve Duncan can attest to this, the school committee who's been working with the school on some kind of facility are transitioning, and we are going to also review the 28E agreement because for one, a lot of it's obsolete, and two, it's very important that the city regain some control of the concession stand, because one of our biggest obstacles in running the facility for a weekend tournament is not being able to provide a concession stand. And at some point over the years, we relinquished control of that to the school, and they have not been cooperative in sharing. So that's one of the tasks that city school committee is working on, is to update that 28E and regain some control of that concession stand.
Brody, this may be a general statement, but two things pop out at me. One, and I appreciate all that you've done. A community like ours, our fees are going to look higher than a lot of smaller communities because of the makeup of our community from a socioeconomic standpoint. We can't afford to pay more for the programs that we have here. When I looked, and then my second part of that is that 73% growth. Do you know where that came from? Do you know whether that's growth within participants within the city limits, or is that growth a large percentage of participants outside of our city limits?
It's a mixture of both, but more than 50% of our participants are outside of the city limits.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Given that, and I don't want to be anal about this, but our previous mayor and I were in lockstep on this. Our out of resident people, I will not back down to what we're charging them now. They probably should be charged more, quite frankly, than what they're paying, based on our residents that are paying taxes already for these kind of services. But gonna leave that into your hands. You're the expert in this, but just know, don't feel bad because we're charging a little bit more, and I believe we can charge even more based on our constituents, not only in the city limits, but definitely outside of our city limits.
And just one comment about the fees, it's just more one that I used to be in the club scene of the sports as well. There is a point of going and higher recreation fees, where kind of what Brody led to with, why don't I just go to club, or why don't I just go to this other city? The thing that we should all kind of consider is how does that affect our product overall? If we go too high for out of city folks, let's say our program's on house, and all the kids are now here in the city, are they losing out on all these different teams that they're playing against when they're going somewhere else now? And so and would that affect our sponsorships too? If we start losing numbers there, it's all just this balancing act. So I do caution going too high. Could we go higher? Probably, but we should probably just kind of what we've talked about in past years, just see about steadily growing up, testing it out. Are people happy with it? Are they getting upset? And just go from there. But I wouldn't suggest any really high increase just right off the bat at any point. Because we just don't want to do that to our kids. We don't want to lower the product for them just because we're trying to get more money. And yeah, I didn't see that. And then it just hurts the rec programs in general.
When I think the amount of research that has been done on it, I have done zero research on it, so I'm just throwing it out as an idea with that. So it's definitely trust your opinion on that, just try to throw stuff and see if anything sticks. I think you also see growth through the new programs as well, where that's incremental revenue.
Raising prices is just add programming. Get that revenue back that way.
I just want to make a quick point. I would agree that perhaps the non-resident have a little bit of room to grow there. I assume the line items and budget you include here does not include the request for an additional full-time.
No, that's just kind of my,
Yeah.
addition. Yeah.
As we're growing the programs, because they have grown astronomically, it speaks volumes to the town, it's where are we gonna get the additional money, because our budgets are tight. I don't want to shrink our programs by any means, but the larger we get, the more complex it gets as we have events every single direction. If we raise it a little bit and growth levels off until we get that additional funding to actually get someone additional in your office so you don't burn out or your new staff don't burn out, maybe that's a thing we consider.
I will say that at least the prices for the activities I have now, I think last year it was 47, but if you lived in town, you got a $5 discount. And didn't know it was set up that way. So now when I created the programs myself, I did 47, but it was, you got a $5. People in town are paying 47, then out of town was $5. So, and it was 47.52 rather than 45.47. So the prices had increased in that regard.
I think that's the perfect way to do, is just keep doing incremental increases and we'll get to we'll find a good point that, okay, we need to back it off, or
Yeah.
the people are okay with it. So I think that's a great idea.
I'm pride.
8 o'clock, so I think once Bertie gets through his department, we'll probably follow it tonight. That's all.
A lot of the items on here kind of stay the same. I mean, I went over this with Roman and Cammy because this is my first time ever going over a budget in my life, so bear with me here. I know that like all the salaries, IPers, all that stuff is not gonna change. Travel and conference, that's if I go to the Iowa Parks and Recreation Conference, it looks like that's staying the same. Building maintenance. You know what all goes into that. I know that we do some stuff, the school does some stuff. It's kind of a gray area for me.
Right,
Um,
supplies, cleaning supplies there, which a lot of toilet paper, paper towels. The iceware where we buy a vacuum every year. It's a big building. And it has lots, even though we don't have the teams, there's still a lot of space there that we're in charge of keeping up.
One thing that there's a big change in, I guess, it lowers is, the refunds. So before I got here, we had a lot of refunds for COVID and, we were refunding coaches. I don't know if we're doing 100% refund, for volunteering. Since I've been here, we did 50% refunds for the first group of activities. A lot of people just wanted to donate it back to the department. So I'm kind of just weaning off of that and just not offering it until it becomes a problem where I can't find coaches, because I've been lucky enough to find coaches. So that's why that lowered quite a bit there. But everything, I mean, miscellaneous contract work, that's refs and different things like that, it goes up $1,000. I mean, I talked to Roman and Cammy about how much we spend, on refs and stuff, and it was roughly $10,000. I think we went over 1,000 just in case we end up needing more for additional games or what that might be.
Another caveat to this on that point is that we're seeing our numbers grow in those, especially soccer, flag football, that's more reps for every one of those programs. That we have to pay to come. It's high school kids, but we still have to pay them. We're also been fortunate, and this has been new. This last two summers, a lot of our staff have been willing to help coach. So.
For help ref.
Help ref, and that's been nice because they're a little more reliable. And you're not wondering, are the high schoolers going to show up at time? But the flip side of that is we're glad to pay them, we're glad they want to do it, but now we have to cover FICA and Social Security, which is fine, but it's just a little bit of a shift that we're not seeing it all under that, that miscellaneous contract work now like we were before, because we have staff that are willing to help provide some of those roughing opportunities. So we're just trying to find that balance. As those numbers and as the participants grow, you're going to have more teams, more games, more reps needed.
I don't know if it's something that you've done it all or not, but if you haven't, I don't know if you'd want to reach out to Casey Hack and just see if there's any of the athletes that would like to volunteer. I've seen, like, whether it be soccer or t-ball, where some of the high school folks will come and help out at practice. I've seen it with basketball. Again, I don't know if it gets under that reliability, will they show up 10 minutes early or 10 minutes late type thing, but it could be a way that they're looking for volunteer hours for their cords.
Yeah, you could check that. That's another thing I was gonna mention is the silver cord hours. We could get high schoolers that, you know about that.
I do, yeah.
So if we could get kids that are trying to get their silver cord to come and volunteer, that might help out with that if we're getting, just another avenue to get more volunteer people through that, because I know my kids both, they're gonna have to do it, and they're always looking for stuff to do, so it's something that we can work out with the school, and be good for a lot of those kids.
The last thing I have is just on the refunds, I think you're on the right track with that. I think anytime, I've always donated it back because whether I coached or not, I'm gonna be there.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of parents feel the same way with a lot of people just donating it back, is that they're gonna be there either way, and they'd like to see a good experience for the kids. So I think you're on the right track, and if you see where you don't get coaches,
Yeah.
you can look at something different, but I think most of the parents that are there want to be there to help out.
And it's interesting, that hidden thing, like, I don't promote that just because I don't want people coaching just to get the money back, because then you're not gonna get any coaches that way. So then afterwards, when I'm thanking the coaches, I send them a survey, and then if they want to donate it back, or if they want that 50%. But we had soccer, football, and volleyball in the fall. I probably sent back, out of all of the sports together, like 7 refunds. So I mean, it's not really, that was a necessity, I would say. Yeah, most of the other stuff on here stays pretty much the same. I don't know if there's any other.
Just one caveat, all you have 34 to catch Andrew up. Utilities, you might notice, we're halfway through the year, it says 39,000 out of 35. We have, at least with the school, we only pay 35, but we still pay the expense. They reimburse us at the end of the year, so that's always been a question mark in past budgets of why we're so high. Well, it's because we're paying it until they reimburse us, but our real cost is 35.
And back to parks, I finally figured out the 70,000 that's budgeted. And that includes the 45,000 for the replacement of the wall between the parking lot and the Catholic church. We still have to meet with, I'm trying to get hard quotes. That's just a price estimate that I've put together, with the city doing it. But we need to meet with the church and see if they will help fund this.
And what I'm hoping is, I'm still working on the large project transfers. What I'm hoping is that there's going to be some surplus from FY23 to help with that stuff. So fingers crossed over that here in a few weeks. Well, thank you. I think we made a good dent. Considering we couldn't meet last week because of the weather. We plan to meet at 5:30 next Wednesday as well. We'll pick up where we left off. And then Scott, you want to go back to over anything since I put you on the spot? We'll do that. I
We haven't
thought
seen each other in a week and a
we have not seen each other, but I just thought it made sense to just start at the beginning and get as far as we could tonight. I'm sure it wasn't really had the chance to kind of, talk through their budgets. We'll, and then we'll keep working, with Scott on the water and sewer department and try to figure out some strategies for managing, those negative numbers, and we'll meet that. So, shall we see? I think
All right, thanks, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I
Hi.
All right, we adjourn.